Well, we are now in the Heritage Farms period Smokehouse. This is an original building that was moved here from a farm in Schaumburg, and actually it's serving the function it was originally designed to. And I'm here with Donna Turner, again one of our another one of our longtime volunteers, and this has been her station for a few years now in the Smokehouse. But could you explain what you're doing here, Donna?
Sure. When they bring in the meat that's been butchered, we put it on this table, which is covered with salt, and we're going to use a dry cure, which is 8 pounds of salt to 2 pounds of brown sugar and 2 ounces of saltpeter. This is to draw the moisture out of the meat before it's actually smoked. I'll show you here. The cure is put on the meat, and then you want to coat the meat to about 1/8 of an inch. You can see where the moisture is starting to draw from the meat, and then after it has laid in this cure for several weeks, it can be hung to be smoked. You build a fruit wood fire, which will impart some sweetness to the meat, gives it a little color, and it deters insects. But it needs to be smoked for several more weeks then, and it's hung back here in the smokehouse for the rest of the season until you're ready to eat.
So it just sits out on these planks, or are there containers it gets wrapped in once it's salted, where it has to sit for several weeks?
Well, we'll come back and salt it to make sure that the meat is well covered. They can put a netting over it or a paper covering, but we don't do that. We just hang it and smoke it.
All right, and then the smoking, you said, takes another several weeks too.
Yes.
So, and I imagine these are hams that were smoked from last year, or maybe
these are 2 shoulder hams, and we have 2 slabs of ribs here from last year. Now, obviously, the smaller cuts of meat need to be used earlier, like before Christmas, because they dry up faster. These big pieces, in order to be used, they have to have the rind peeled off, and then you can reconstitute them with soaking in milk before you cook them.
Have you ever gotten to try some of this?
I'm not sure whether, I think we ground up some and made ham patties. They're delicious. But I love country ham.
Pretty salty, I'll bet.
Very salty. If you don't like salty ham, don't try it.
All right. Well, thanks, Donna. All right. We're here right now with Arlene, who's one of our volunteers. And could you explain a little bit about what's in the pot there for folks?
Well, in the pot is the pig's head. And we've had the butcher cut it in 4 pieces just to make it easier to handle. So we have the top half here, and we'll cook this until the meat is pretty well cooked and falls off the bone. And then we'll take it out and cut it into small pieces and mix it with buckwheat flour and cornmeal. And then we have some spices over there. We have sage and salt and pepper, mace, nutmeg, and some red pepper. And then we'll cook it again with a little bit of this broth for maybe 30 minutes, and then we'll shape it into loaves. And it will be kind of like a meatloaf. And when that cools, then you would slice it and fry it. And that would be a good meal that the Germans would have eaten with potatoes and vegetables.
Okay. And we had talked about the fact that the Germans call it Panhaus, but also scrapple would be a
Something like scrapple. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there might be some folks out there who have tried it before, but I never have. But it sure sounds interesting.
Well,
one of those things you have to try to believe.
Yeah, how they use everything.
Sure.
Nothing goes to waste.
So how much longer does this have to cook for then?
Well, we think about 45 minutes, and then it will be ready to take off the bone. So that would have been about 2 hours total, 2.5 hours.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we're making schnitzel, and we put a little bit of lemon juice on it, then put it in flour and egg wash and breadcrumbs, and then fry it up in some good old lard.
Now this sounds good. I don't think I could eat this compared to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, the tenderloin is everybody's favorite. Although the sausage has been going over pretty good today.
Now, would they? So, have you guys made sausage so far, or you're just starting?
We made some non-case sausage, so it's just a simple sausage with some lemon rind and nutmeg and salt and pepper, and just made little little sausages like
Oh, okay. All right. So, but the sausage in the casings, you haven't really
No,
cooked any of
she's
that.
just starting to grind the meat now for that, and as soon as we get that ground, get more of the, we've just got some cubes over there to start cutting up, and then we'll be stuffing the sausage.
Okay, so we are in the kids' activity area at the Heritage Farm here with Kyla, and I'm sorry,
Brandy?
with Kyla and Brandy. And could you guys want to explain? I mean, have you had many kids in here first of all?
Yeah.
You have. And explain what you have the kids do here then.
Oh, go for it. Go ahead.
We have the meat right here, and we have the fat. This is all Play-Doh. And we just stuff it all in here, in the grinder, and you turn it, and out comes your sausage.
So do the kids, do they take this home at all, or this is just something to play with?
This is just something to play with here. So they get to turn this, and then they take all this, and, excuse me, they stuff it in here.
So that's like a meat grinder, I guess.
Yeah, that's what that is. And then they just push this down. That's it.
They usually have intestines wrapped around here, so they'll encase the sausage. And then once it's done, they'll twist it and they'll make sausage links.
Yeah. Like so.
So kids get to learn how sausage is made.
Without all the gore.
Yeah. But we're here by the lard rendering area with Sherry Rosenquist, who's on staff here. Could you just explain what you're doing here
Sure.
for the folks?
Sure. During the process of butchering the pig, which would have been done once a year in November, the pieces of fat are separated, and we go ahead and we put them in a large kettle. And as we cook them over a fire, the fat melts down, and it's going to separate from the residual pieces of flesh and skin, which will be refried and called cracklings. But the fat that's melted down and rendered will be saved to use as fat for the rest of the year for anything that the household would need fat for. This was your major source here for anything for cooking, even for waterproofing leathers or whatever you would need a fat for. This was the time you'd make it.
Okay. And of course, there's probably a lot of grandmothers out there who remember cooking with lard. It's not as common today, but some people still do it, and probably a lot of people also know you can't make a decent pie crust without lard.
That's
so.
right. Yeah, my mother and my grandmother were of that school, yes. Actually, the best kind of lard that comes off the pig to use for those pie crusts is called leaf lard. The leaf lard comes off of around the abdominal cavity, and that would probably have been rendered separately from the other lesser grades of fat, because that leaf lard was very fine and it made the best pie crusts. For our purposes today, we've mixed the two, but yeah, but the leaf lard was the most treasured kind of fat.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sherry. Well, there's a lot more going on here today, for at least for the rest of the afternoon. We've seen everything, but want to thank everyone for joining us out here, and hope that you'll come and visit the Heritage Farm for some of our future events around the holidays, or certainly during warmer weather is always the most popular. But this is one of the most unique events that we do here at the Heritage Farm. And thanks for coming out to visit us today.